also talk about these similar topics. So I'm happy to be here, and now we'll pass the microphone to the rest of our members of the group here.
So my name is Dave Lee. I've been a health coach from Western Australia for the last 6 years now. I'm currently the co-owner of 2 clinics. One is called Primal Zone in Australia, and the other is TRT Baltic, which is in the Baltics, servicing Europe and Scandinavia. I've written a few books, made over 100 YouTube videos on the education around TRT, and I'm very passionate on how men can optimize their hormones to live a better physical and mental health existence in this world. My primary area of interest, was originally psychiatry. That's what got me into health, but I ended up dropping out of that to pursue looking into and understanding further about how to optimize and support hormonal health to treat many of the mental health symptoms that a lot of men are experiencing and struggle with. And since then, I've helped men all over the world for the last 5 to 6 years get their TRT right and optimize their health.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Yerth. I am Chief Medical Officer and co-founder of Boulder Longevity Institute in Boulder, Colorado. My background, so our clinic, basically, we are licensed in most of the states in the US, but we have sort of an international presence. We do a lot of hormone replacement, a lot of peptide therapies, and a lot of what we call repurposed medications to try and actually help people just live forever, and be able to kind of keep doing what we're doing now, even at 120 years old. My background actually is from orthopedics, so I came around this from a little bit of a injury perspective. So one of my other passions is more regenerative orthopedics, so we do a lot in that realm as well. So we treat a lot of injuries, and we also hope to prevent a lot of injuries. But I actually came full circle from orthopedics because I realized you can't just do surgery on somebody and send them on their merry way, they're going to be fine. So we actually do a lot to help people recover from injuries now, or hopefully prevent surgeries, so we can actually get people healthier. So we use a whole spectrum of things. We do a lot with peptide therapies. I'm on faculty for a teaching institute called C Scientific Research and Performance, so we do a lot of teaching of other physicians in peptide therapies. We try and come up with novel peptide therapies. So we're really working all the time to kind of come up with the most novel ways to sort of help you guys recover, get better. I think one of our goals for all of us is to live to be 120, but be able to still lift weights and ski and do all the things we want to do, so that's one of our goals.
So I'm Eric Fates. I'm a physician out of Ohio. I'm a former ER physician, and I got into the world of preventive medicine because I saw the bad things that were happening to people at a very early age that could have been prevented with a healthy lifestyle and a proper diet, nutrition, etc. So now I do health performance optimization, what I call cellular muscle medicine. I focus on muscle as the organ of longevity. So I practice, basically I do cellular optimization, hormone optimization, peptide therapies, and longevity, and do mostly telemedicine with my company, Dr. Eric Primex. I'm also working with Dr. Eric at BLI now as well. So we're trying to help everyone live a better, stronger life. Again, not just living longer, but living better by treating the body's units and treating the cellular mechanisms underneath, not just kind of covering things up with medicines and band-aids, but really getting to the cellular level and the mitochondrial level, really treating the body as a functional unit and treating it from the inside out. And again, focusing on muscle as that organ of longevity and building it up so we can find patients and clients live a life of vitality and strength, and they can give back to the people around them. Live together is my mantra, and that's what I do.
So I'm Dr. Touliatos. I'm a certified biopathologist. I come from Greece. This is my third academic university. I've been cooperating with plasma hormones since 2019, speaking about TRT in men. My background is from bodybuilding and used to compete, and afterwards I studied replacement therapy for the past 9 years. I'm author of some books in Greek, Italian, and in English in regards to bodybuilding and harm reduction. So I face the replacement therapy in men and retired bodybuilders, but also to reduce the harm in PEDs use. I have my own practice in Greece, and I cooperate also with an AG clinic. And I'm also into age management in men, and of course replacement therapy.
Okay. All right, so now we'll get started with the topic. Today's topic is longevity. So everyone, who doesn't want to live a longer life? But is it just about adding years to your life, or is it about adding life to your years? And we hope to talk about today some of the latest technologies and treatments and possibilities of increasing those quality years in life, but then also to open up the discussion, what's the goal here of longevity? Do we just want to add more time, or do we want to have quality in the time that we add, or can we have both? So I'm going to open it up to the round table, and maybe we can answer that initial question. What are we trying to accomplish with longevity and longevity medicine?
Well, I think that is really all of our goal, right? Is to be able to, we've all watched, I watched my parents, they lived well into their 90s, but the last 10 years of life was not great. And that requires us to start preemptively. And I think the thing we're starting to learn is the younger the better, right? A lot of people did not get into longevity or don't need to think about longevity until you're in your 50s because things start falling apart and you're like, oh gosh, I better do something. If we can preemptively do things starting in our 20s, we're going to make a much bigger impact on our longevity. And I think that's one of the things we need to do is get out there and sort of educate younger people that you need to start thinking about longevity early, because there's so many preemptive things you can do so that you don't. It's always, we can do a lot to play catch up, but there's a lot of things we can do early on. So I think one of our goals should be getting out there earlier and starting to encourage these things. I think that when we look at longevity, there's so many pieces. Obviously, this crowd knows we have to eat well, we have to sleep well, we should do those things. But there's a lot of what we call biohacks that we can utilize, including things like repurposed medicines and peptides, and obviously hormone replacement. You're not going to age well if you do not keep your hormones at the levels they were in your 20s. And forever. You can't really say, okay, I'm going to do hormones for a while and stop, and they need to be done forever. And there's this trend, unfortunately, in society to sort of look down upon that, when you're a woman, you're too old for hormones. When you're a man, you don't need hormones. That's, there's a reason we age. I think that we were meant to die at 35, right? And so the fact that we can now live to be 120, we can make those the best years possible. So I think we have to sort of start utilizing all these hacks. I don't think we can sort of look down upon them as, oh, that's for somebody else, or we're not going to ever make an impact.
I'm 32, so I don't know much about longevity. But I got into this because I had a brain injury when I was 25 and I couldn't walk properly for a couple of years, and that was pretty scary to experience that so young. And one of the fortunate things about the audience that I've managed to work with over the recent years is because of being on YouTube and being a bit younger. My primary audience are men who are in their 20s and early 30s who are working this stuff out, and I'm going, well, if we start to put the work in now, if we start to focus I guess it's kind of like saving your money. It's saving a bit of your health for the future and putting some health in reserve. And the younger you start, the more effective it can be. And one of the interesting things about working with a clinic is you get the guys who are health enthusiasts, and you get the guys who are looking up TRT on YouTube because they heard about it on Joe Rogan. And it's interesting to see where people end up at 40 and 50 based on what they do between 18 and that age. And one of the things I'm the most passionate about, because I've seen how it's played out for better or for worse, is teaching the younger men to have in mind how this stuff's going to affect them in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Recreational athletes of using anabolic steroids, drinking like you're a rock star every weekend for multiple decades. Just excessive recreational drug use under the age of 25, guys are not realizing what this is doing to their longevity, and they're not realizing how this is going to impact whether they're going to survive or whether they're going to thrive when they're older. And it's exciting to teach these guys about hormone replacement therapy because these younger men are coming up with the hormones of a 65-year-old in their 20s. And not only does this completely mess up the trajectory of the experience that you're having with life, I think all of us are trying to improve the subjective experience of being alive, and then the better we feel, the longer we want to live. So, as these younger guys are working out and they've got these hormone profiles of their grandparents when they're younger, I think becoming aware of that and ideally looking at the things that we need to do to optimize health so that we don't need hormone replacement therapy, because the secret code to making HRT work for you is that you have to live as if you were going to be making those optimal hormones naturally. Otherwise, there's a big disconnect between what you're injecting and how you're living. You have to be a healthy person to have healthy hormone levels. It's pretty common sense, but as people are working out more that the longevity efforts you make as prehab is cheaper and effective than the efforts that you're making as rehab, I think it creates this really exciting scenario where, and this is my number one tip for people wanting to look at this, is going, just make a list of all the things that you know that you should be doing that you're not doing, and then make a list of all the things that you know you shouldn't be doing that you are doing, and just fix that. And I think if you do that early, if you get in early and understand that you might not be the outlier that's going to get away with it, if you do that in combination with optimizing your nutrition, optimizing your exercise, optimizing your light exposure, optimizing your hormones, I think this is what's going to allow people over a lifetime to completely change the trajectory of where they'll end up when they're older.
Yeah, so everything that's been said thus far, I totally agree 100%. I mean, a lot of my clients I see of all different ages, and I encourage all my patients to get some data early. Some of what was said earlier, that start young as much as you can, and a lot of my patients, I wish they would come to me when they were 10, 20 years ago and gotten their lab work, their testing, get their baseline, so to follow that trend over time, but sometimes you can't do that. So the whole fast-paced nature of today's society is good and bad. I think it's good. We have this technology, Oura rings and boot bands and data and lab work and all these cool biohacks and things that we were talking about, which is great. And we need to use that. People are using that. But we need to use that to our advantage on that. At the same time, it's a bit of a duality, because I feel like we also need to kind of go a little bit backwards. A lot of technology, everything that's going on in the world, politics, and the toxic world that we live in, it's aging us. Similar to what was said earlier, I also see people with hormone levels and inflammatory conditions at an extremely early age that our parents, grandparents didn't have. Again, we live in a toxic soup, right? The EMF, the phones, the artificial lighting, the stuff in the air, the stuff in the water, the stuff in our food. It's an uphill battle. We're like salmon swimming upstream to live healthy, and it's hard, and it takes a lot of work and dedication. And young kids don't see that, because when we're all 20, we're all invincible, right? But as we get older, we realize that. So it's more of an uphill battle. So we have to embrace that and use the technology to the hormones, the peptides, the wearables, different things to make ourselves better. But at the same time, we also kind of, I feel like we've lost some things from our past. We have to go backwards as well, connecting to nature. I'm big on getting away from this, trying to get outside, go stand in the grass with your bare feet, get some early morning sun, reset your circadian rhythm every single day. Get up at the same time, get up with the sun, go down with the sun, just like our ancestors did. Get out in the forest, forest bathing, whatever, but just go for a hike, get out in nature, feel and breathe the nature, and get it into your skin, get it into your soul, connect with God, connect with your community, your friends, your loved ones. A lot of us have gotten away from sitting down, having a conversation, or going to church, etc. Go out and about. I always marvel at the people just sitting around the table looking at their phones. I'm like, connect, talk, have that engagement, work your brain. Talk about living longer by working our brain, thinking, actually having a good conversation, getting out in nature, doing these things that our ancestors have done for thousands of years. It works. So again, it's that duality. So going back a little bit, and doing some things that we've forgotten about, we're kind of getting away from it, but also embracing the new things and using that to our advantage instead of letting it beat us down. Let's use it to our advantage. So a little bit of both. So I always focus on the free, easy stuff first, right? And again, connection, getting outside, taking a hike, getting sun. Then we go to the advanced strategy. We go start eating clean, not doing the things you should be doing, eating and working out. And then we get into obviously hormone optimization, which of course I'm big on, like everyone here. And peptides, and get the advanced strategies, build it like a house. You start the foundation and build yourselves up. So sometimes things get forgotten in the fast-paced world, but again, it's an uphill battle. I think if we all embrace it and attack it very strategically, and with connection of good colleagues and listening to people and connecting with others, I think there's a lot of things that we can do.
So as Michael pointed out correctly, it's not about the number of years we're going to live, but the quality of these years, the quality of living. To me, the factors for age management are, first of all, sleep is the most important thing. Insomnia kicks inflammation through cortisol. Then comes diet, that trans fat and refined sugars kick inflammation through insulin. Of course, with diet, we can have supplementation for anti-aging. And then comes exercise that has to be both resistance training after the age of 40 to reverse the muscle wasting and the lack of bone mineral density, plus the high interval density training for the heart and the lungs, the cardio. Now, factors that can increase the lifespan, we know that disabled people in the elderly, a lack of neuromuscular conjunction. So the bad quality of living comes through sarcopenia that also leads to osteopenia. And we need resistance training to reverse that, plus the protein, of course. Now, HRT is the basis of age management because we age simply because our hormones decline. So to men, testosterone fills the gap now, and we know that hospitals are full of old men with low testosterone. So we reverse the decline of this hormonal downhill of men, and we administrate replacement therapy hormone of testosterone in order to be optimized but not abused. HRT also can increase the lifespan by increasing the telomeres through the clotted protein, and low IGF-1 also is increased the mortality, as low testosterone also is linked to mortality. DHA can help also in age management. In regards to supplements, NAD and MNM plus spermidine are proven to increase the length of the telomeres. The longer the telomeres, the more likely to have longer lifespan. And as I said, yes, sleep is very important, and we need circadian rhythm sleep before the midnight. So the 8 hours from 11 to 7 is not after the midnight, because REM, that releases growth hormone, is mainly done before the midnight. So what's the point of living up to 100 and be disabled in a bed, while to live up to 80 years and be strong and healthy? Of course, it's the amount of years that you live, but also it's about how you live those years.
Thanks, George. So that's interesting. That brings us to the point of, what sort of breakthroughs are there? But more importantly, what you had described earlier, maybe tactics, things that you can apply to your daily lives to live longer, to live healthier. But what about the biohackers and this particular breakthroughs? I know in the area quality of life and your health. So there have been a couple of studies, and there's a company called Touliatos, T-E-L-E-O-M-I-R, not how it's normally spelled, but that's this particular company. But we've seen companies in the past that have started, like Touliatos, that promise they can do a blood test with just a drop of blood, and that turned out to be a complete scam. So how do we distill down, and debunk some of the myths, and how do we know what's real, which is the path this is taking? Because all of us, many of us will want to do the work, but how sustainable is it every day? And is there something? Is there a strategy that could really, bring it home so that we would do X, Y, and Z, and now we've got this healthy living into our, hundreds, almost like sci-fi. I know what you guys think. What's the latest and greatest out there? And what do you think is the best strategy for going about healthy aging and longevity?
I think it's about not being insulin resistant and then having optimal hormones to offset the effects of stress. I think that's a good foundation to start with. I'm sure everyone will speak on some different things that can be done, but I think that's the most important foundation to get all of this to work. And obviously there's the what you do with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for years. It's about the day-to-day eating, the exercise, all of that kind of stuff goes without saying, because you can't out-biohack a bad diet. But I think on top of that, one of the most interesting areas to look at is optimizing all your hormones, and then making sure you don't have this underlying systemic inflammation, which would prevent those hormones from working properly. And what we're doing with optimizing all hormones in the body, so when I say all hormones in the man, I'm talking about things like testosterone, but also things like pregnenolone, DHEA, thyroid, melatonin, and growth hormone altogether. Creating this optimal hormone environment, what these all do in synergy is they pull the marionette strings at the top of the systems in the body in terms of impacting how everything's going to regulate downstream. And one of the most important roles of all of these hormones, if we're kind of thinking about a Venn diagram, where all the circles cross over in the center, one thing that they all do that's really important is they offset the effects of cortisol and stress, and they're anti-catabolic. So this is essentially preventing what's driving the underlying diseases of aging, which is chronic inflammation and metabolism, where the body will start to break down and age, literally what it's doing, rather than heal and thrive and regenerate. So I think one of the best things that people can do is maintain healthy insulin sensitivity, because insulin resistance is often driving the fire, it's the fuel to the fire that's causing these diseases of aging from happening. And then as we get older, maintaining the body's resilience to remaining robust and remaining healthy, which is having optimal levels of all of these hormones. And I think that testosterone is often the hormone that brings people into this. It's like the gateway drug of HRT. But testosterone is very important for men. You know, it's a sexy molecule. Speaking of sexy, welcome Luke. Sexy molecule, it's something that works extremely well in a man's body to maintain his life force. But when we're looking at these other hormones, things like thyroid, pregnenolone, DHEA, melatonin especially, what these are doing is reducing a whole lot of the inflammatory systems in the body and allowing the body to be in a state where it's more able to regenerate and thrive, and ultimately allow people to have the healthiest immune systems, the healthiest bone mineral density, the greatest ability to synthesize protein and build muscle, and all of these factors to prevent neurodegeneration, cancer, cardiovascular disease, is from having these optimal hormone levels. So the older you are, especially if you're deficient in testosterone, the more likely it's going to be that these other hormones are going to start to decline as well. So it's very important that we're not just looking at one hormone, but we're looking at the entire cascade, and then how the hormones are supported and facilitated through a healthy body underpinned by diet and lifestyle.
Dave put it right on, that one of the big things that we lose as we age is our immune system. There's not going to be one, it's not going to be stopping telomerase, it's not going to be always turning off mTOR. There's not going to be one solution to aging. We're going to have to look at all these different pathways that are being affected. But if you bring it all down to sort of one thing, it really is the failure of our immune systems that actually ends up killing us. If our immune systems fail, these natural killer cells that attack cancer, and that's one of our primary ways to stop cancers from growing. We have cancers growing all the time, so if our immune systems are failing, we can't stop that. The number one reason older people die of things like COVID is their immune systems have failed. Young people don't die of COVID, older people do. Why is that? Because your immune systems fail. So if you kind of put it all into where am I going to focus first, if I'm going to really stop aging, I'm going to have to focus on keeping my immune system healthy. And you're right, you can't do that without hormones. It's one of the reasons women get autoimmune diseases early on, men don't get it until they're later. Lots of times it's because we don't have much testosterone. So testosterone is very key to immune system, so is progesterone in both men and women. So you really have to optimize the hormones to keep the immune system healthy. But you're going to have to do a lot of other things as well. Because the immune system is, despite keeping your hormones optimal, despite doing all that, we are getting our immune systems attacked all the time. And unfortunately, COVID was a huge blow to us and our immune systems across the board. And all of us, whether you got vaccinated, didn't get vaccinated, got COVID, most of us had COVID, we all took a big hit to our immune system. So we're going to have to really sort of focus on how do we bring that back. And I do think that's where we're going to have to start looking at other things that we can bring into play. And that's where I think sometimes if I look at when a young person, when you're born, you have this giant gland in your chest, it's called a thymus gland, huge. So babies have this developing immune system. At puberty, your immune system is best. It begins to fail actually at puberty, because your thymus gland starts to shrink. So now you have this little tiny nub of a thymus gland that's not doing anything. By the time you're old like me, you have no thymus gland working at all. So your thymus gland is producing one of the main things that tells your T cells what to do to go fight off all this bad stuff you're being exposed to, and you don't have some. You're not going to replace that by taking testosterone or taking growth hormone or any of those things. But can I do things to help my thymus gland? Yeah, because I can get back, for instance, the peptides that the thymus gland makes. Thymus gland makes something called thymosin alpha 1, thymosin beta 4. You get back some of these peptides, thymosin, you get back some of these peptides to replace what my immune system is failing to do. So I do think there's going to be a place for saying some of these peptides are useful. It also is where things like rapamycin. So rapamycin is, if you look at mTOR, it stands for mammalian target of rapamycin. Rapamycin binds to that, it blocks mTOR. When you turn off mTOR, you basically facilitate longevity. So but we don't want to turn off mTOR all the time. If you have no mTOR, you're not going to have any muscles. Everybody here's got big muscles. You need mTOR for muscles, so you've got to turn it off and on. So basically, by using rapamycin, I can turn up mTOR, turn it back down. When I do that, I actually stimulate my immune function. So by turning things up and down, that's why fasting and refeeding is really important. But I think we have to I don't think we're going to get there with just hormones alone or living a quality of life. I think we really want to look at optimal longevity. It has to be a focus on our immune system. And I think we are going to have to look at some of these things that are coming up. I don't think we can, and it's not going to be one thing, it's not going to be one answer, it's going to be a combination of all of these. But I think we're going to have to be a little more progressive in our thoughts that we can't do it all with just the things we know right now. And we have to keep an eye open. It's one of our clinic, one of our passions is actually exploring new things that are coming up and new ingredients and new supplements and new peptides that are coming up so we can actually do this. But it's going to be using a combination of things. And I don't think we can do it with just sort of saying, okay, keep everything stable with hormones. You're probably not going to do it. So I think we're going to have to keep our minds open to where we can go with some of these biohacks.
That sounds good. Actually, it reminded me of this. Have you heard of the TRIM trial?
Yeah.
So the TRIM trial, they use a combination of growth hormone, metformin, I think some other goodies like DHEA, maybe vitamin D3 and some zinc. And in that, the whole thought about it was, how do we rejuvenate the thymus gland, just like you had mentioned. And they found that even a year of growth hormone therapy had helped rejuvenate the thymus gland. So more to your point, that would be a good start. But then there's been some recent studies about IL-11, having to do with inflammation. How do we create a monoclonal antibody to quell the IL-11 in the body? I guess it's too soon to know, but that's something that's on the horizon.
Same kind of interest. So agreed. I think inflammation is probably one of the biggest drivers of aging in all diseases, for that matter, and certainly improve your insulin sensitivity, reducing inflammation are key to that. Yeah, so I agree. When it all comes down to metabolism, having an optimal metabolism, our body wants to grow and heal without think of it like a car. You want to take the fuel, make the engine go without all the bad exhaust. The bad exhaust is the inflammatory products, reactive oxygen species. So we want the metabolism running smoothly. So the science of immunometabolism is what Betsy was alluding to earlier, study with the immune system and how that relates to the metabolism. I think we're all learning how intricately it's related to that. So two of the big things that, again, I think we learned a lot in the last number of years that we're still learning is the microbiome and this immunometabolism. So immunometabolism is a whole topic in and of itself, but again, like Betsy was saying, that's improving our immune system, and it comes down to treating at the cellular level, giving it what it needs and taking away what it doesn't like. And again, that's consistency with your diet, with nutrition, with sleep, all the things we've been talking about. Gut health, microbiome, we're learning more every day what we don't know, right? But massively important. There's a lot of things you can do where everything kind of starts in the gut, right? So we can actually manipulate the hormones, the inflammatory markers from the gut. Different things you could do. People, Mike mentioned about fasting. I mean, some people love it, some people hate it, but you don't even have to. If you eat a certain way, you can actually prime your gut to make more certain bacteria, more products to get it kind of it's called amplified fast. You don't have to fast that long, still get all the benefits the next day. It's a little bit feeding the gut what it needs to make these things like different bacteria, Akkermansia, all these different microbiomes. A lot of things that we have in our body comes from the bacteria in our gut. So by optimizing our gut health, reducing inflammation in the gut, getting the right bacteria growing, we can actually change a lot of these inflammatory pathways, change a lot of these hormones, peptides that are made in the body. We make our own GLP-1. People talk about specifics and lipid but etc.
I was just about to
Shame myself. To operate, so you boost that in there. But it looks like it might be coming back as an option. But like everything, there's
Well, now they're talking about it. Now there's like a Pentalon and Bible and regular supplements in our world. It's a project. That to me is like the next frontier, because right now the grass they don't classify those as drugs. They classify them as supplements.
it's an FDA generally recognized as safe
Yeah.
by the FDA.
Yeah.
Or is it the
But I don't know.
and who is the body that agrees that? Because everyone keeps banding that about, but it's all right. I think we'll go with this. So originally we were supposed to have a second panel for a different experiences, different thoughts about longevity. So, and I originally planned on coming up with a new opening, essentially a continuation of what we're, Eric, you're going to join us for this one? Or? Okay. Continuation of what we were talking about before. And I'll just do a quick recap and introduction for anyone who's new in the audience. We'll do quickly go around, if you haven't noted, if you don't know who some of us are, we'll do a quick introduction, and then we'll probably go for about half an hour, continuing with the longevity topic, and then we'll have another topic after that, which I will be the moderator for. Anyway, as I said earlier, I am Mike Kosis. I'm the founder of Balance for Hormones. I also have a pharmacy called The Hormonist in the UK. I'm the main sponsor, of my company is the sponsor for this event of the Olympia University educational seminar. And I'm happy to do this. It's the second year in a row that I've done this, we've sponsored this event. And I think it's important, like I said before, you know, whilst it's great the bodybuilding and the fitness and all that goes on at these events, it's nice to see people like yourselves come out and really want to pick up some new information, learn and meet some of us. And we're happy to meet some of you because you know, it's important. We're all part of this health and wellness community, and it's good to get knowledge on all of this. So that's one of the reasons why, you know, I'm really happy to be part of this and support this as an owner of a TRT, HRT clinic and service and support. So that's a little bit about me. I also have a YouTube channel that we use to talk about these same types of topics. So again, if you'd like to subscribe or learn a bit more, you can go to Balance My Hormones. And that's it for me. And then we'll start to the right hand this time with my friend Jay.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jay Campbell. Some of you guys know who I am. Luke does. I don't know what I am. People ask me. My daughters ask me what I am, and I say I'm an online gypsy. But I'm an author, podcaster, subject matter expert on a bunch of different things. I've written a bunch of successful books on therapeutic hormones, therapeutic peptides. So I'm, you know, really honored to be here today. Talk to you guys.
Yeah. George, you want to just do a quick intro again?
Yeah. So I come from bodybuilding background. I follow replacement therapy because of the bodybuilding lifestyle. My main focus is the replacement therapy in men and the harm reduction in steroid use in bodybuilders. I had I think a couple of podcasts with you, Jay, on TRT Revolution, and I've been cooperating also with Balance My Hormones, muscular development, and Volks book. And it's my third year at Olympia University.
All right, good to have you, George. And here we got Dave.
Still Dave Lee from before. Own a couple of clinics, one in Australia and one in Eastern Europe called TRT Baltic. I've written a few books on TRT and done a few videos on YouTube helping educate, particularly around the topics of mental health and hormone replacement therapy, and also the nuances of working with younger men.
It's Eric Fate, yes, I'm here in Ohio, helping performance optimization, do all things related to helping, especially all ages, but middle-aged men and women, you know, optimize their health and hormones metabolism. I do cellular optimization medicine. I focus on muscle medicine as a organ of longevity, keeping people young and strong and mentally intact, so we can live a better life and hopefully give back to other people. And appreciate you having me back out here again.
All right, so glad to have everyone on. Now, previously we were discussing all different strategies and particular tactics and individual methods to improving one's longevity. And as I said before, you know, it's not a number of years of life, it's bringing, you know, good life to those years. What we want to do now is maybe we unpick a little bit of some of the different strategies. And one of them I mentioned was these potential studies. This is going back to the 90s. They were talking about telomeres, telomerase. Can you improve this enzyme? Will it improve the length of your telomeres? Will this help you to stay healthier longer? Will it extend your lifespan? Or if not, at least the life that you do have will be of much higher quality, less disease. I don't know if you guys, from your knowledge, if you want to talk about this in a little bit more detail. One of the fears of any of these, either hormones or increasing things that improve the growth pathway, is the worry, will that lead to cancer? And I think this is why, for many years, you haven't seen a lot on it, but I don't know if anyone has seen this. There was a video of this company, Telomere, that they're using it in veterinary medicine. They helped a dog that had cancer. Now it's acting like a puppy, apparently. Again, do we believe in all companies that set out with pharmaceuticals are the real deal? You just have to look at Theranos, the diagnostic company that was promising to have all your blood samples done in one droplet of blood, which is probably physically impossible. But they gained thousands, billions, or millions of dollars in funding, only for her to eventually go to prison. So, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But this is a particular area, I think, I mean, look, we all want to do the exercise and put in the work, but at the end of the day, if there's something that could possibly be a knockout punch and then help you live longer, is this something worth pursuing? Maybe it's not, maybe it is. What do you guys think?
Great question. So, right now, we are on the forefront of a complete biomedical or biochemical revolution. There are so many supplements, bioregulators, ergogens that are coming into the marketplace right now that smart people can't even keep up with it. I mean, that's how much is out there right now. It's almost crazy to think about just in the last 10 years, like how much has actually come into the scene in the last, I would say, year and a half to 2 years, but not just drugs, but supplements, senolytics. There's so many different things that are coming into the marketplace right now. It's very difficult to keep abreast of all of them, even if you're smart and this is like the thing that you do for your life or your career. But to what you're saying about telomerase and improving telomerase expression as we age, I really like the two bioregulators, which are known as thymolin and epitolon. Very recently, there's been, again, anecdotal research that has come out that you can actually take them in oral form, because previously they were injectable bioregulator peptides. And now there's a lot of people, especially Phil Likens, in the anti-aging, the guys at anti-agingsystems.com or Profound Health, I know they have a bunch of different companies that are talking about them, and Phil's actually been lecturing about the oral versions of them. But in theory, and I would say actually from the people that are using them, they will regress cellular age, okay? From a standpoint of how you dose them, there's obviously a lot of, it's open-ended as far as how you would dose them and what is the most accepted format of doing them. But as I was telling Michael before we started talking, I'm kind of blown away at how the world is like accepting bioregulators into the marketplace as if they were just over-the-counter supplements sold on Amazon, because technically that's how they're looking at them. But the Russians have 80 years of patents and science showing that bioregulators, when used clinically, offer enormous efficacious results and profound changes to basically biological system functioning. So it's very interesting, I think, right now where we're going with this. But like I said, like I just am excited. Like I get really geeked out about how incredible all these different drugs slash supplements slash exercise mimetics. I mean, this newest one, I'm sure you guys are talking about, SLU-PP-332. I've been actually using it now. This will be the beginning of my 8th week, and I've never ever taken a supplement slash drug slash exercise mimetic, whatever the hell it is, that's done such profound, and made such profound changes to my physiology, and actually there's no side effects. So there's no research in humans, right? There's research in animals. But the research in humans, which is obviously bodybuilders using it, and performance enhancement and biohackers and stuff like that, like we've yet to see any kind of side effects. And again, in the animal studies, they were taking like 25 times the dosage that we're technically taking right now before they're starting to see issues with lipase, which is fat emulsification. So, like I said, all I'll say, I'll pass it over to George or whoever wants to go next. We're just at the forefront right now of a revolution, and there's a lot of great things coming into the marketplace. But you guys, as the consumer slash end user, just have to be really judicious and obviously intelligent on how you use them.
I would say Carvery was supposed to be an exercise mimetic that was brought out, but never really was brought to the market. And I think that's the problem with some of the, and we'll talk about it in a future roundtable discussion on peptides and these other, not even small molecules, is that part of the clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, and 3. Phase 1 is making sure that it's at least safe and you can kind of work out the pharmacokinetics of it. Phase 2 is safety and efficacy. phase 3, further safety and efficacy, and then on to being put on the market. And then you know with some of these other molecules, when they do go through that process, that actually, okay, they've tested for interactions potentially between other medications that you would take. Some people, lots of people are on other medications these days. And so the problem with some of these ones that aren't, even supplements, apigenin and others, do we know, do they affect other enzymatic pathways, and how do they mix with other medications that you may have to take as we age? And so, you know, it all comes down to money, and we can talk about the big pharma cartel and all that. Not that they're all into this maniacal plan to take over the world, but because some small pharmaceutical companies start off with you know, ethical purpose. Many of them still do, and then they just get very, very big, and they gobble up the small ones, and then that's kind of how all business works, really. So I guess the point is, it starts with an idea. It takes a lot of money to do the trials. You know, governments are all strapped for cash and don't spend the money on the trials. So it's really hard, and I quite like the thought that they might be coming as some supplements and generally considered as safe. But at the end of the day, I guess everyone's a responsible adult, and they do the best they can to work out what's going to be best for them. But it would be nice to have safety data, at least, anyway, in humans.
I think if I can real quick, just to what you're saying, it's an interesting point, I should have brought it up, but Big Pharma / the FDA approval process is actually not able now to keep up with research and the people that are out there in the industry that are like making these products faster than, you know, the pharmaceutical companies can either grant approval or get them through. So that's the biggest conundrum, I think, right now in the marketplace, is like, to what you just said, is if you are the end user, you have to make a decision whether you're going to wait for the pharmaceutical approved version coming, knowing what the animal model data says, because again, there's a lot of safety in the animal models. And then, of course, as bodybuilders / biohackers, which many of us in this room, if not all of us in this room, are, it's just up to us, like, to decide, like, you know, this is our bodies. We're going to, you know, experiment on our bodies in the way that we want to. So it's a very interesting thing to see how fast these drugs / ergogen / exercise mimetics are coming into the market faster than the pharmaceutical companies can approve them.
I don't want to make this just the Mike and Jay show, but do you guys want to have?
So this is a really exciting topic, and Elizabeth was speaking a lot about the same thing previously. And I think this is a really fascinating field for people to be looking into, and people are often coming back to being like, well, what's the difference between a drug and a supplement, and a peptide or a bioregulator and a hormone? And when we're looking at these peptides, and one of the reasons why I love living in Eastern Europe is we still have a lot of Soviet doctors left over who are practicing with bioregulators. You know, it's fascinating in a small country like where I live, if you have a stroke, there's a doctor in the ambulance, which makes sense. And they'll IV you cerebral lysin straight after you have a stroke, because they know that that's the most important time for brain regeneration. So cerebral lysin being probably the most famous of the bioregulator peptides. So this is a really exciting field of medicine, and I think that some people think that it's this crazy, new, wacky thing that's come up, but in reality, these medications have actually been used for a very long time. And what a peptide is it's a signal to tell your body to do something. So if you can think of a medication or a drug as it's forcing your body into a certain direction, a peptide is like a signaling molecule, and it's saying, hey, do this, move more in this direction. And the thing that Jay has spoken about prolifically in his content, which I think is really important, is this idea that the body has to be in a state where it can actually heal and regenerate for these peptides to work. You know, Jay calls them, you know, metabolic dumpster fires. If you take someone like this and you inject a whole bunch of peptides to slow down aging and to improve health and to improve longevity and regeneration, it's not going to work as well as if you were giving the body the proper foundation of nutrients that it needs to be able to perform the tasks you're trying to perform. And I often use the analogy when I'm speaking about peptides. You know, if I tell someone to clean their room versus yell to clean their room, past the point of yelling, they're only going to be able to clean it so fast. And so it's so important that if we're going to be using these peptides and we're going, okay, well, this peptide does ABC, so my expectations are ABC, it means that you have to go and do X, Y, Z for ABC to work. And that's the most important part that I think gets missed out on a lot, is that we have to create this environment that the body can actually thrive using these peptides to get the amazing results that people are getting from these interventions.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, and especially here in America, you know, everybody wants the quick fix and kind of wants to overdo things. And as Jason written about prolifically, as he mentioned exactly, is that, you know, people want to kind of like the Larry the Cable Guy commercial. I feel terrible when I eat this food. I take my peptide. I can eat my terrible food.
Right.
Don't eat the terrible food. You know, same thing with testosterone or any peptide. If you throw something, you throw fuel on a fire, it's going to get worse. So you have to optimize the cellular environment. So same thing with like NAD. A lot of people, well, let's do NAD. But if you've got an inflammatory environment from a bad lifestyle or an inflammatory process or an undiagnosed condition, you're going to make it worse. It's not going to get better. So you can't always just do what's cool or do what you're reading about. It's trending. You have to, as in everything with clinical outcomes, get to underlying map. And again, it's about fixing the underlying issue, not just covering up with a Band-Aid or a quick fix. There's no quick fix. You have to figure out what's making the cell work. Into Mike's original comment about telomerase, I think, yeah, there's a lot of potential there, a lot of things, and it has kind of fallen off because the whole cancer concern, again, if you've got a terrible environment, then you're feeding the bad stuff, that's not good. But again, if you can treat the cell, get the cell up, mitochondria, the cellular functions, the plasma membranes working better, you can get it to do what it needs to do. The body's pretty damn smart, it'll take care of itself, and it'll make the appropriate amount of telomerase, the appropriate amount of all these little molecules we're talking about to do the right thing. And that's what's great about peptides, is they're facilitators, kind of like allowing the body to do what it wants in the right capacity. Yes, of course you can do the wrong thing or too much of something, but if you give it what it needs at the right time, that's the key thing. That's where you have to work with something that's what they're doing to, anyone here can tell you that, just to do the things at the right time. And I agree, the bioregulators are fascinating, and I think that's kind of the misconception that, again, there's a new, and like Jay said, it's been around for decades, and a lot of cool science, but unfortunately due to politics and economics, we don't hear about them, or we hear a bad spin. So sometimes we have to dig a little deeper to find out what the truth is about it, and find a little bit more. And I agree with what Jay said about the thymolin, pinolon, the epitalin, the injectable form was done before that. GHK copper is a peptide. All these things can alter and affect your DNA in a positive way. It can affect your immunometabolism growth, like I was discussing earlier, and add these years to your life. But I think, again, all the coolest stuff, but let's focus again on optimizing your lifestyle, getting that underlying cellular environment under control, and your body will do its things. You can manipulate that just with diet, with exercise, timed routines to stress your body the right way at the right time. But all these things, I agree, it's really cool. A lot of neat things that we can do, and I think the key is going to be trying to keep up with the science, because like you said, it's moving really fast. So we have to do the right thing, and you be cognizant of all the changes, and also be aware of potential things that could happen.
Yeah, so speaking of telomerase activity, this enzyme that supposedly lengthens the telomeres, the longer the telomeres, then at the end of the chromosome, you're more likely to live over 100, let's say. I've been using since the beginning of the year a promising supplement called spermidine at 5 milligrams that is supposed to lengthen the telomeres. About peptides, epitalin, of course, is a new deal that, of course, has to do with the telomerase, but I've been using the real deal, which is growth hormone, on a daily basis for the past 4 years. And personally, I believe that I look better than 5 years ago. I'm 51 now. And that's a secret of the people in Hollywood, right?
You were 61.
So it makes you age younger, because growth hormone increases the clotting protein. That is also linked to to longer telomeres. Okay?
Yes, so clotho is a peptide, George, that
It's a protein,
a
yeah.
protein made in your kidneys that can be a sign of longevity, and there hasn't been a lot of research done on it, but yeah, human growth hormone can increase the clotho. Another medication that we've discovered is pentoxifylline, that's also shown to increase clotho, which has an anti-aging element, protecting the kidneys and as well as other parts of your body.
So according to your dog, IGF-1 has to be optimized and towards the upper levels. As well, IGF-1 is also linked to mortality. So IGF-1 is towards the ceiling with, let's say, 2 use a day of growth hormone. And with the ADH management is based on low dose that regenerates all the cells, the recovery, okay, and waking up better, in better mood, in better energy, and perhaps slight fat burning. But the muscle growth is a bad scenario that kicks it forward, and then the cell proliferation basis and tumor growth. But growth hormone doesn't cause cancer. If you have a pre-existing cancer, that's the problem that you will be cancer in the fire, okay?
It's interesting because there are some studies that will talk about that growth hormone will shorten your lifespan, right? And they'll point to people that I think Laurent's syndrome or dwarfism, where they may live longer
lives, or even certain animal studies with less growth hormone living longer lives. But what is their quality? And usually those animal models, they were genetically engineered not to have growth hormone at all. So of course, then, you know, if you then give the group the growth hormone, they may not live as long. They're not programmed for that. Where the rest of us, we need a certain amount of growth hormone, optimal amount of growth hormone, to have an improved health span. So, and again, it goes back to what I had said earlier. I'd rather have more life to the years than just years to the life, if it meant a really bad existence going forward, or being full of disease later on in life. So I think.
Well said. So I also use growth hormone, 1.5 I use, usually 5, sometimes 6 days a week, depending on my work-life balance and my travel schedule. I'll be 54 in February. I agree with him 100%. I think growth hormone is essential. Going back to what Dave said, hormonal optimization is always key for everything. Like anything that you use, if you're hormonally optimized, whether you're a male or a female, man or woman, everything is going to work better. Okay, you have to look at your body as kind of a symphony orchestra, and you have the endocrine system, you have the thyroid, you have the pancreas, so you've got insulin. So we want to make sure that all of those 3 things are optimized, and everyone on this table, and most of you guys in this room, are smart enough to understand how to do that. But I'm totally in agreement with you about growth hormone, and I was, as you know, a long time ago, I was brainwashed by the science and the studies, thinking that growth hormone is bad, and this, that, and the other. But now, as I've been using it myself for almost 4 years consecutively, and seeing my biomarkers improve, I'm 100% agreement. And
my creatinine goes down.
You say creatinine goes down.
To say that you can improve the kidney failure through the growth hormone.
Right.
So my creatinine is even below 1.
Yeah.
Ended up taking, protein, creatine, stuff like that.
Sure.
And before the GH was 1.2 to 1.3.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so I just, to the idea that growth hormone causes cancer, again, going back to what Dave said, and you said a little bit too, opening, lifestyle is what causes cancer. Genetics play a role, we all know that, but epigenetics are the ultimate determinant. So if we are treating our bodies like a dumpster fire by the way we eat, by the way we drink, by the lack of sleep, and all these other things, we are, as you said, and he said, throwing fire on the pathways. And when you're throwing fire on the pathways, it doesn't really matter what you take, it's not going to benefit you positively. But if you are doing the things, and again, these are all just like base foundational models of exercising, sleeping 7 to 8 hours consistently at night, living insulin controlled. That is a huge thing. So many people do not live insulin controlled, and as you were saying, Dave, they think they can just take this peptide or this drug or this supplement and you're going to get benefit. I mean, that's the total opposite of the truth. So, if we have the foundational models laid in before we start adding peptides or hormones or bioregulators or supplements, we're going to be in a lot better place.
I just wanted to say, I noticed something. I went to the Walgreens, and up by the tills, all the little boxes of Reese's peanut butter cups, and all the sweets tempting you to move away from the healthy lifestyle. If you're a bit hungry, you might, let's have one of those. But there's a lot. It's all over the Western world, really. That kind of is pushing you down the wrong pathway, and you've got to be strong and knowledgeable. But sometimes, like your primitive brain takes over because you might be hungry. So obviously, there are strategies to minimizing that. So people eat more often, or they might be metformin or some other things. But I guess you have to weigh it up and realize that it's not completely your fault. Because there are people trying to sell you bad food, processed foods.
I mean, nothing can stop gummies and Reese's, bro.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to this stuff, the insulin-controlled lifestyle and having good insulin sensitivity, however means someone achieves that, is so crucially important, because if you don't have that, if you're the opposite, if you're insulin resistant, that's what, over a lifetime, over years and decades, that's what's leading to the diseases of aging that people are getting too young. And what it's doing is it's actually absolutely doing the opposite of what we're trying to achieve here, longevity, which is that's what's causing the tail end of your life to massively lack that quality. And a lot of these hormones and a lot of these supplements and a lot of these processes that we're looking at, one of the ways in which they achieve the therapeutic mechanistic outcomes that they have in the body is by improved insulin sensitivity. And one thing I often say to my clients, in Australia we have this very strong culture where abs are for summer because everyone goes to the beach, and then in winter it doesn't matter. And one of the things that's so important that Jay spoke about a lot in his books as well is that being lean is not just for the mirror, it's for health, because having healthy metabolism is so important for not stressing out the body. When your metabolism's not working properly and your body's not creating energy properly, it forces it to become stressed. And this short-term stress adaptation is not a bad thing when it's short-term, but when that's chronically activated long-term because your body's not efficiently making and utilizing energy, that chronic stress state over time is what's leading to these issues. So I think when people can start to look at these options to go, okay, we've got these kind of foundations we're looking at here, which is like the good diet and lifestyle that leads to the healthy insulin sensitivity, the optimized hormones, and then the peptides that, when it comes to which ones to use and what protocols to go through. These are the people like Elizabeth and Jay who are experts in the space. But what's really going to impact that outcome, which everyone's ultimately trying to achieve? You're taking the peptide to achieve the outcome. The most important factor for that outcome to become achieved is if the patient works with the medicine, rather than expecting the medicine just to work on them.
I think on the topic of longevity is also thinking even longer term, right? Think of like Japan, they have these 100-year plans for their businesses, right? So, so many studies are showing how a lot of these chemicals, these different molecules, they get passed from the mother to their child through the placenta, et cetera, and they're there for years, decades, and they're creating these, like Jay alluded to, the epigenetics. They're very important, these epigenetic changes that are happening, and it's passing from generation to generation. So we're starting to see that now with this epidemic of obesity and some resistance, but it's gotten worse over time, and I think it's snowballing. And I think if we're all talking about longevity, we need longer, better, but we have to think about our kids and their kids and their kids. And what's going to happen if this train doesn't get checked? It's going to spiral out of control because these epigenetic changes, these things that pass through the blood into from the mom into the children, that pass from the person, these glyphosates in our system, or these toxins in our system for decades, and it takes forever to get them out. But these changes that are happening, it's going to affect our children and then their children. So I mentioned earlier about this uphill battle based on the environment that we live in, huge, but it's going to be even worse for generations to come. So if that's not a motivation, that's a huge motivator for me. It should be for you. But to get ourselves healthy, but for our kids and their kids to get healthy too. Because these things are happening. There's tons of studies backing this up, how these things are passing down. And it's literally changing the genetics of our children and their children. We're seeing that both socially, economically, politically, a lot of other ways as well, which I won't get into, but it's affecting us, and it's going to get worse if we don't make a change really quick. So that's a big impetus to think of longevity, not just our longevity, but future generations to come.
That's well said, Eric. One of the things that Dave had talked about was the metabolism, having good metabolic health. And I received a YouTube comment the other day about someone that said, I'm not getting an improvement in my sex drive from TRT, and I'm not seeing any benefit in anything else. I think I'm going to stop. And we've seen this in our patients as well at the clinic, and many of them stop, and they usually return, and they'll say, well, I gained a lot of midsection fat and visceral tissue. I think a lot of men in particular, when it comes to hormone replacement therapy and treatment, only see it for the vanity side of things and the physical appearance, when there are things happening inside of you